The message came at 300 Earth Standard Time. Jun Kim was pulled from a deep sleep by the urgent beeping of his official communicator. He fumbled in the dark, squinting at the bright screen. Diplomat Kim, report to Earth Command immediately. First contact situation. Critical. Jun sat up, suddenly wide awake. First contact. After decades of searching the stars, humanity had finally encountered alien life. And they needed him. 3 hours later, Jun stood in the main briefing room of Earth Command headquarters in New Seoul. The room was filled with military officers, scientists, and government officials. All looked worried. Admiral Lee, head of Earth's Defense Forces, pointed to the large screen on the wall. 2 days ago, our research outpost in the Proxima system detected an unknown fleet entering the system. Before they could make proper contact, this happened. The screen showed a small research station orbiting a distant planet. Suddenly, bright beams of energy sliced through the station. In seconds, it was gone, replaced by floating debris. The room fell silent. The same thing happened at our outpost in the Ta City system 6 hours later. Admiral Lee continued. No warning. No attempt at communication. They just destroyed our people. Jun felt his stomach tighten. This was not how he had imagined first contact would be. President Kang stood up at the head of the table. We've managed to track their fleet. They're moving slowly toward the edge of human space, near the colony of New Busan. We need to establish communication before they reach it. She looked directly at Jun. That's where you come in, Diplomat Kim. Jun nodded, understanding the weight of responsibility. What do we know about them? A tall, thin man with glasses stood up. Almost nothing. I'm Dr. Tak Park, head of Sinolinguistics. We've detected signals from their ships, but haven't been able to decode their language yet. Their technology appears to be more advanced than ours, especially their weapons. We're sending our fastest diplomatic vessel, the Olive Branch *, President Kang said. You'll lead the mission, Diplomat Kim. Your goal is simple. Establish peaceful contact and find out why they attacked our outposts. And if they don't want peace, Jun asked. The room grew quiet again. Then we need to know that too, Admiral Lee said. Which is why military strategist Hannah Lee will accompany you. A woman in a crisp uniform stood up. She was shorter than Jun, but carried herself with unmistakable confidence. I'll be there to assess their military capabilities and intentions, she said, and to get you out safely if things go badly. Jun looked at the assembled team. When do we leave? 1 hour, President Kang said. The fate of humanity may depend on what happens next. Diplomat Kim, choose your words carefully. The Olive Branch * cut through space at its maximum speed. It was not a large ship, designed for speed and diplomacy rather than combat. Its sleek white hull stood in stark contrast to the black of space. Jun sat in his quarters, studying everything they knew about the alien fleet. It wasn't much. The ships were massive, at least 3 times the size of Earth's largest vessels. They had destroyed the research outposts with weapons unlike anything humans had developed. There was a knock at his door, and Hannah entered. We'll reach the meeting point in 2 hours, she said. Dr. Park thinks he's made progress with their language. They walked together to the ship's main laboratory where Tak sat surrounded by screens filled with strange symbols. These patterns keep appearing in their transmissions, Tak explained, pointing to a series of sharp, angular symbols. I think they might be a greeting or identification. I've programmed our translator to attempt basic communication. Good work, Jun said. What about visual? Do we know what they look like? We got some brief images from the outpost before it was destroyed, Tak replied, bringing up a blurry picture on a screen. The image showed a tall, reptilian figure with a body covered in what looked like bony plates. Its head was elongated with 4 eyes positioned to give it a wide field of vision. Arms ended in clawed hands. They look formidable, Hannah said quietly. Remember, appearances can be deceiving, Jun replied. Just because they look different doesn't mean they think differently. Captain Da Yun's voice came over the ship's communication system. Diplomat Kim, we're receiving a transmission from the alien fleet. They're requesting visual communication. Jun straightened his formal diplomatic uniform. Time to meet our neighbors. Let's hope they're in a talking mood. The main communication room of the Olive Branch was designed to make a good impression. Earth's symbol, a blue and green circle representing their home planet, was displayed prominently on the wall behind where Jun, Hana, and Tak stood. Opening channel now, Captain Da said. The screen flickered, then filled with the image of one of the aliens. In person, it was even more imposing than the blurry image had suggested. Its skin was a dark greenish gray, and the bony plates covering its body gleamed like polished armor. 4 yellow eyes focused on them. I am Diplomat Jun Kim of Earth, Jun said clearly, bowing slightly. We come in peace, seeking to understand why you attacked our research outposts. There was a pause as the translation system worked. Then the alien spoke, its voice deep and resonant, with clicks and hisses the translator couldn't quite smooth out. I am Supreme Commander Krell of the Voraxian Empire. Your presence in these star systems is unwelcome. These territories now belong to the Empire. Jun maintained his calm expression, though he felt his heart rate increase. We did not know these areas were claimed. We are willing to discuss boundaries and shared resources. Earth wishes to establish peaceful relations with the Voraxian Empire. The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. Peace is not our way. The Empire expands. Others submit or perish. Surely we can find common ground, Jun said. War benefits neither of our peoples. We have much to learn from each other. You misunderstand, Krell replied. We do not seek war with humans. War implies equal opponents. You are not our equals. Hana stepped forward slightly. You may find humans more capable than you expect. Supreme Commander. All 4 of Krell's eyes turned to her. A military advisor. Interesting that you bring one to a peaceful meeting. Just as you command a warship, Jun countered smoothly. Caution is universal, it seems. Krell's head tilted slightly. Perhaps you are not as primitive as you appear. It changes nothing. The Voraxian Empire claims the star systems you call Proxima, Ta Ceeti, and Epsilon Eridani. Your colonies there must be surrendered immediately. Jun felt a chill. Those systems contain 3 of humanity's most developed colonies, with millions of people. That is not possible, Jun said firmly. Those are established human worlds. Perhaps we could discuss trade agreements or... There is nothing to discuss, Krell interrupted. Surrender these systems within 7 of your Earth days, or we will take them by force. The choice is simple. Submit or be eradicated. Tak leaned close to Jun. Their body language is aggressive. They're not bluffing. Jun tried again. Supreme Commander, surely there's room for negotiation. We can. Humans are unworthy of negotiation, Krell said flatly. You are weak. We have studied your ships, your weapons. You cannot stand against us. Then why offer us the chance to surrender? Hana asked suddenly. Krell's eyes narrowed. Efficiency. Conquered worlds are more valuable than destroyed ones. But make no mistake, we will accept either outcome. Jun realized this meeting was going nowhere. We will convey your demands to our government. But I urge you to reconsider. Humans do not surrender easily, especially when threatened. Then you will die bravely but pointlessly, Krell said. You have 7 days. The screen went dark. Back in the ship's conference room, the atmosphere was tense. Well, that went badly, Tak said, running a hand through his hair. I need to report back to Earth Command immediately, Jun said. Captain, prepare for return at maximum speed. Wait, Hana said. She was looking at a datapad. Our sensors scanned their ship during the conversation. They're already mobilizing. Look at these energy readings. She showed them the screen. Various points on the alien ship were glowing with power. Weapons? Jun asked. Most likely, Hana confirmed. They're preparing for attack, regardless of what we decide. June's face hardened. They never intended to negotiate. This was just to assess us before they strike. There's something else, Tak added. During the translation, I detected patterns suggesting they've done this before. The phrases were too practiced. I think the Voraxians have conquered other species this way. Captain Dai entered the room. Earth Command is on secure channel, sir. June nodded. Tell them everything. And Captain, make sure our defense systems are at full alert. I don't think our new friends plan to let us return home peacefully. As if in response to his words, the ship's alarm began to sound. Multiple energy spikes from the Voraxian vessel. A crew member shouted over the intercom. They're powering weapons. Evasive maneuvers, Captain Dai ordered, rushing to the bridge. June, Hana, and Tak followed, reaching the bridge just as the ship lurched sharply to the side. Through the view screen, they could see a beam of bright energy pass just where they had been moments before. They're trying to cripple us, not destroy us, Hana observed. They want to board us. Not happening, Captain Dai said grimly, engaging emergency jump drive. The stars outside the view screen blurred as the ship accelerated to speeds that made the hull creak in protest. They're pursuing, but we're faster, reported the navigation officer. We can outrun them. June looked back at the view screen, where the massive Voraxian ship was growing smaller. They came looking for an easy conquest, he said quietly. They'll find anything but. If they want war instead of negotiation, then they'll learn what humans are truly capable of. As the Olive Branch raced back toward Earth, June knew the real challenge was just beginning. Humanity was facing its greatest threat, and he would need to prepare them for what was coming. The Voraxians had demanded war. Soon, they would get it. The emergency meeting of Earth's Defense Council lasted 5 hours. Leaders from all human colonies joined by secure transmission. The room was filled with raised voices and worried faces. We should strike first. General Tahan slammed his fist on the table. Hit them before they're ready. With what? Admiral Lee asked calmly. Their ships are bigger, their weapons stronger. A direct attack would be suicide. President Kang raised her hand for silence. We've heard the military options. Now I want to hear from Diplomat Kim. All eyes turned to June. He had spent the last day reviewing everything they knew about the Voraxians. It wasn't much, but it was enough to form a plan. I believe we should continue negotiations, Jun said. The room erupted in protest. They already said they won't negotiate. They tried to capture your ship. They're preparing for war. President Kang called for quiet. Let him explain. Jun nodded his thanks. Yes, the Voraxians said they won't negotiate, but that tells us something important. They're overconfident. They think they know all about us, that we're weak and will surrender easily. He stood and walked to the screen showing the Voraxian ships. That's their weakness. We can use it against them. How? Admiral Lee asked. We pretend to be exactly what they expect, scared and desperate. Meanwhile, we gather intelligence and prepare our defenses. Jude looked around the room. They've given us 7 days. Let's use them. Hannah Lee, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. Diplomat Kim is right. I've been studying what little we know of their battle tactics. The Voraxians rely on fear and overwhelming force. If we can make them overconfident while secretly preparing, we might stand a chance. President Kang considered this. It's risky, if they detect our preparations. That's why we need a small team to keep their attention focused elsewhere, Jun said. I volunteer to lead another diplomatic mission, but this time, we'll need someone from intelligence. I can help with that, said a quiet voice from the corner of the room. All heads turned. A slim man in a plain gray suit stood up. Most hadn't even noticed him sitting there. This is Jin Song, one of our best intelligence officers, Admiral Lee explained. What do you have in mind? President Kang asked Jin. While Diplomat Kim keeps the Voraxians talking, I can gather data on their ships, weapons, and communications, Jin explained. We already have some information from our brief encounter, but we need more. It won't be easy, Hana warned. Their technology is advanced. Jin smiled slightly. The more advanced the technology, the more it can be tricked. Simple sometimes beats complex. President Kang looked around the room. Are there any other suggestions? The room was quiet. Very well, she decided. Diplomat Kim, you'll lead another mission to the Voraxians. Your official purpose will be to discuss surrender terms. Your real purpose is to buy us time and gather intelligence. Take Strategist Lee, Dr. Park, and Officer Song with you. She looked at Admiral Lee. Meanwhile, prepare our forces. Quietly. We have 7 days to get ready for the fight of our lives. The Olive Branch approached the Voraxian fleet once more. This time, they were met by an escort of smaller alien ships that surrounded them, weapons ready. On the bridge, Jun adjusted his uniform. Remember, we need to appear defeated but not too quickly. They need to believe we're genuinely considering their terms. Hana nodded. We also need to keep them talking as long as possible. Every minute gives Jin more time to collect data. Jin was in a small room filled with special equipment. The quiet man had transformed the room into an intelligence center. Screens showed various readouts of the Voraxian ships. Their communication systems are interesting, Jin said. They use a frequency that should be easy to monitor once we calibrate our systems. Tak was working with Jin. I've made progress on their language too. Their communication style is very hierarchical. Status is everything to them. The ship's computer announced, incoming transmission from Voraxian command ship. Here we go, Jun said. Places everyone. Jin, start your scans as soon as the channel opens. The screen lit up, showing Supreme Commander Krell. Behind him stood another Voraxian, slightly smaller but with more elaborate markings on its armor. Human, Krell said without greeting. You returned quickly. Have you brought news of your surrender? Jun bowed his head slightly, playing his part. Supreme Commander, I bring a message from Earth. We wish to discuss the terms of your demands. Krell's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. There are no terms to discuss. You will evacuate the 3 star systems I named. Any humans who remain will become property of the Empire. Property? Hana asked, her voice carefully controlled to sound nervous. You mean slaves? We prefer useful resources, said the second Voraxian, speaking for the first time. I am Sub-Commander Xarth. Those who serve well may earn certain privileges. June noticed that Xarth seemed more calculating than Krell. While the Supreme Commander relied on intimidation, Xarth watched them carefully, studying their reactions. Millions of people live in those systems, Jun said, letting his voice shake slightly. Moving them would take time. You have 5 days remaining, Krell said. That is generous. While they spoke, Jin was working silently. His fingers moved quickly over his instruments, intercepting Voraxian communications and scanning their ships. Perhaps we could see examples of how other species have integrated into your empire, Jun suggested, to help prepare our people. Krell made a dismissive gesture. Unnecessary. Your experience will be unique to your species' abilities and limitations, which are considerable, Xarth added. We've analyzed your ship. Your technology is quaint. Jin sent a message to Jun's pad. Keep them talking about their technology. Acting superior *. Jun nodded slightly. Our ship is just a diplomatic vessel, not our best technology. It would make no difference, Krell said proudly. Voraxian battlecruisers can destroy planets. Our armor withstands weapons you haven't even imagined. Our smallest fighters could eliminate your largest warships. As Krell boasted, Jin's screens filled with data. Every word gave them more information. And how many battle cruisers do you have? Hana asked, sounding impressed and frightened. Enough to turn your worlds to dust, Krell said. But that would be wasteful. Surrender, and your people may live to serve the Empire. Sarth stepped forward. Perhaps a demonstration would help convince Earth's leaders. We could show them what happened to the last species that resisted. June saw an opportunity. Yes, that might help. Our leaders are stubborn. They need to understand what we're facing. Krell seemed pleased by this. Very well. Transmit this to your leaders. The screen changed to show a recording. A beautiful blue-green planet appeared, much like Earth but with 2 small moons. Surrounding it was a fleet of ships similar to but smaller than the Voraxian vessels. The Azurians, a proud species. They refused our generous offer, Krell's voice narrated. 5 massive Voraxian battlecruisers moved into position around the planet. They fired simultaneously. The beams crossed at a point in space, combining into a single, more powerful beam that struck the planet. A huge explosion bloomed where it hit. Jin's instruments recorded everything. The recording ended, returning to Krell's face. That was just 1 city. They surrendered after 3. Your species would be wise to learn from their mistake. June forced himself to look shaken. I will show this to my leaders. They need to understand what we're facing. Good, Krell said. Return in 2 days with your answer. Though it should be obvious what that answer must be. The transmission ended. June turned to the others. Did we get what we needed? Jin's face was lit by the glow of his screens. More than they know. I've captured details of their weapon systems, shield frequencies, and even some of their internal communications. Their weapons are powerful, Hannah said. But did you notice? That combined beam took 5 ships working together. It's not a single weapon. And it took time to charge, Jin added. Nearly 40 seconds from positioning to firing. Tak looked up from his station. I've been analyzing their language patterns. When Krell mentioned other species, did you notice his tone changed? I think they're having problems with some of their conquered peoples. Anything else? June asked. Yes, Jin said, his voice serious. Based on their communications, I don't think they're telling us everything. There were mentions of something called the Overlord who must approve their conquests. So Krell isn't the final authority, Jun said thoughtfully. That could be useful. There's one more thing, Jin added. Their ships are impressive, but I detected power fluctuations when they demonstrated that weapon. It drains their resources significantly. They might not be as all-powerful as they want us to believe. Jun smiled for the first time in days. Then we have a chance. Let's get this information back to Earth. As the Olive Branch prepared to depart, the Voraxian ships let them pass without interference. They believed the humans were returning to discuss surrender. They think we're coming to surrender, Jum said quietly as they watched the alien ships grow smaller on the view screen. They have no idea what humans are capable of when backed into a corner. Behind him, Hannah, Jin, and Tak shared determined looks. The real battle was just beginning. And humanity now had something the Voraxians didn't expect them to have. Hope. The next 5 days were the busiest in human history. Every ship, weapon, and soldier was prepared for war. The information Jin had gathered was shared with all military leaders. Scientists worked day and night to find ways to counter Voraxian technology. At Earth Command Headquarters, Jun stood with Admiral Min Choi in front of a large holographic display showing the human colonies and Voraxian fleet positions. Their main force is gathering here, Admiral Min said, pointing to a spot near New Sol colony. 7 battlecruisers and about 30 smaller vessels. They're following the same pattern they used against the Azurians, Hannah added. Overwhelming force against one target to break morale. Then that's where we'll make our stand. Admiral Min decided, but not in the way they expect. June looked at the Admiral. You have a plan. Several, Min replied with a slight smile. None of which follow standard military doctrine. Good, said June. The Voraxians have conquered 12 species by expecting them to fight conventionally. A scientist entered the room. She was short, with practical clothes and intense eyes. Admiral, Diplomat Kim, I'm Dr. Su Jung. My team has analyzed the Voraxian shield frequencies Jin recorded. Have you found a weakness? Hannah asked eagerly. Dr. Su placed a data pad on the table. Images of complex energy patterns appeared above it. Yes and no. Their shields are strong, but they operate on rotating frequencies. There's a pattern. If we can time our weapons to hit at exactly the right moment between rotations, we can penetrate their defenses. That's a very small window of opportunity, Admiral Min noted. Milliseconds, Dr. Su confirmed. We need to modify our targeting systems. It's possible, but difficult. Make it happen, Admiral Min ordered. What else? Their communication system, Jin said. It's centralized. All orders come from command ships. If we can disrupt those communications, their fleet would be in chaos. Hannah finished. They're not used to individual ships making decisions. So we target their communication systems and hit their shields at the weak points. Admiral Min summarized. It's risky, but it might work. There's something else, Jun said. The Voraxians expect us to either surrender or fight conventionally. They don't know that we know their weaknesses. We can use that. How? Asked Admiral Min. I go back one more time, Jun said. But this time, instead of discussing surrender, I tell them humanity's answer. We will not yield. That's dangerous, Hannah warned. Once you deliver that message, they'll attack immediately. Exactly, Jun said. And we'll be ready. 2 days later, the Olive Branch approached the Voraxian fleet again. This time, it was escorted by a small human warship, the Swift Justice commanded by Captain Da. Are you sure about this plan? Captain Day asked Jun over the ship's communication system. Once you deliver your message, they'll open fire. I'm sure, Jun replied. Just be ready to jump out when I give the signal. On the bridge of the Olive Branch Jun straightened his uniform. This time, he wore not the plain clothes of a diplomat, but the formal dress uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps, complete with medals and insignia. Incoming transmission from the Voraxian command ship, announced the communications officer. Accept, Jun said calmly. Supreme Commander Krell appeared on screen. He looked smug. Human, have you brought news of your surrender? Jun stood tall, all pretense of fear gone from his manner. Supreme Commander Krell, I bring the response of Earth and all human colonies to your demands. He paused, meeting Krell's 4 eyes without flinching. Humanity does not surrender. Not today. Not ever. Krell's expression changed from smugness to surprise, then to anger. You dare refuse. After seeing our power. We've seen your power, Jun agreed. We've also seen your weaknesses. We have no weaknesses, Krell snarled. All species do, Jun replied calmly, including Voraxians. Zarth stepped into view beside Krell. This is a foolish decision. Your species will be destroyed. Perhaps, Jun said, but we will not go quietly. We will not surrender our homes without a fight. That is humanity's answer. Krell's anger seemed to fade, replaced by amusement. Your courage is noted, human. It will make an interesting footnote in our history before your species is forgotten. We'll see, Jun said. Goodbye, Supreme Commander. He signaled to cut the transmission. Captain Da. Now. Both human ships jumped away just as the Voraxians fired. The energy beams passed through empty space where the ships had been moments before. The Voraxian fleet arrived at New Seoul Colony 3 days later. 7 massive battlecruisers and 32 smaller vessels dropped out of faster-than-light travel near the colony's outermost defense stations. New Seoul was a large colony, with 5 million human inhabitants on the planet and another million in orbital habitats. The orbital defense fleet consisted of 20 ships, led by Admiral Min aboard the flagship Defender *. Supreme Commander Krell's voice boomed across all communication channels. People of New Seoul, your leaders have chosen destruction instead of surrender. You have 1 hour to evacuate to the surface before we destroy your orbital stations. In the command center of the Defender Admiral Min turned to his officers. They're being generous. They want the colony intact. All ships report ready, Admiral, said his second-in-command. Dr. Su's modifications have been applied to our weapon systems. And the special packages? Min asked. Deployed as ordered. Min nodded. Then we wait. The hour passed. The Varaxian fleet moved into attack formation, spreading out to surround the human defenses. They're not using their combined beam weapon yet, Hana observed from her station. They're saving it. Good, Min replied. Remember, everyone. Follow the plan. Don't engage directly until my signal. The first Varaxian shots flashed across space. 2 human defense stations exploded in brilliant flashes. Return fire, Min ordered calmly. The human ships fired, but their shots seemed to scatter randomly, missing the Varaxian vessels entirely. Pathetic. Krull's voice came through the command channel. Your weapons can't even hit their targets. More Varaxian ships fired. 3 human vessels exploded. Admiral, we're taking heavy losses, reported an officer. Stay with the plan, Min replied firmly. Continue evasive maneuvers. The human ships began to scatter, seemingly in panic. Some fled toward the planet, others toward the outer system. The Varaxian fleet gave chase, breaking their tight formation. They're taking the bait, Min said with satisfaction. Now, activate the packages. Throughout the battle area, small devices that had been quietly deployed earlier suddenly activated. They emitted signals on the exact frequencies used by Varaxian communications. Aboard the Varaxian ships, commanders heard contradictory orders. Some heard commands to advance, others to retreat. Some lost communication entirely. What's happening? Krull demanded as reports of confusion flooded in. Their formation is breaking, Hana reported to Admiral Min. Now, sir. Now, Min confirmed. All ships, execute attack pattern Omega. The retreating human vessels suddenly turned and charged directly at the confused Varaxian ships. Their weapons fired in precise, timed bursts, hitting the alien vessels exactly when their shields rotated frequencies. Explosions blossomed across space as Varaxian ships, their shields penetrated, took direct hits. This is impossible, Krull roared. How are they penetrating our shields? Unknown, Commander, Sarth replied, his voice tense. Their weapons suddenly became more accurate, and our fleet communications are compromised. Use the beam weapon, Krull ordered. Destroy their flagship. 5 Varaxian battlecruisers moved into position, preparing to combine their firepower. Admiral, they're preparing their main weapon, warned an officer on the Defender *. I see it, Min replied. Execute maneuver Delta. As the Varaxian ships charged their weapons, dozens of small, fast human fighters launched from hidden positions around the battlefield. They streaked toward the 5 battlecruisers, firing precisely at their communication arrays and weapon ports. 30 seconds to full charge, reported a Varaxian officer. Small craft approaching, warned another. They're targeting our beam emitters. Destroy them, Krull commanded. The battlecruisers tried to swat away the human fighters, but the small craft were too quick, darting in and firing their modified weapons at exactly the right moments to penetrate shields. One by one, the beam emitters on the battlecruisers were damaged or destroyed. The carefully aligned energy pattern collapsed. Commander, we cannot complete the firing sequence, Sarth reported. 3 of our emitters are damaged. Krull slammed his clawed hand on his command chair. Impossible. How did they know where to strike? Across the battlefield, more Varaxian ships were taking damage. The human vessels, though fewer in number, were hitting with surprising accuracy. Admiral, Hana called. Varaxian losses are at 20% and climbing. Their formation is completely broken. Min nodded. Send the message. A transmission went out from the Defender to all Varaxian ships. Jumkin's face appeared on their screens. Supreme Commander Krell, this was just one colony. Imagine what will happen when you face all of humanity. We may not have your size or raw power, but we adapt. We learn. We find weaknesses and exploit them. On the Varaxian command ship, Krell stared at the human's face with hatred. You have a choice, Jun continued. Retreat now or lose more ships. This doesn't have to end in your destruction. Cut that transmission, Krell roared. But his bridge officers were busy trying to restore order to their damaged fleet. Commander, Zarth said urgently, we've lost 30% of our force. 2 battlecruisers are heavily damaged. Impossible, Krell repeated, but with less conviction. They are inferior. Another explosion rocked his ship as a human vessel scored a direct hit. Your orders, Commander. Zarth pressed. Krell stared at the battlefield display. His neat formation was in chaos. Human ships darted between his vessels, striking with unnerving precision. Tactical retreat, he finally ordered. Regroup at Rally Point Zeta. And the human colony? Zarth asked. Krell's 4 eyes narrowed. We'll return with reinforcements. This isn't over. As the Varaxian fleet disengaged and jumped away, cheers erupted throughout the human ships. We did it. An officer shouted on the Asterisk Defender's Asterisk Bridge. Admiral Min allowed himself a small smile. We won the battle. But the war is just beginning. They'll be back with more ships and new tactics. But next time, we'll be more ready, Hannah said confidently. And they'll be less sure. On a secure channel, Jun's face appeared on Admiral Min's private screen. Congratulations, Admiral. Your plan worked perfectly. Our plan, Min corrected. Your intelligence made it possible. What happens now? Jun asked. Min's expression turned serious. Now we prepare for round 2. The Varaxians won't underestimate us again. 2 weeks passed after the Battle of New Sol. Every human colony prepared for war. Ships were built and modified. Weapons were upgraded with Dr. Seuss technology. Soldiers trained day and night. On Earth, the Defense Council met again. The mood was different now, cautious but hopeful. Our victory at New Sol has given us time, Admiral Min said, addressing the room. But our scouts report the Varaxians are gathering a much larger fleet. At least 20 battlecruisers and over 100 smaller vessels. Where will they strike? Asked President Kang. They'll attack multiple colonies at once, Hannah predicted. It's what I would do. Split our forces, prevent us from concentrating our strength like we did at New Sol. An older man with silver hair spoke up. Can we evacuate the threatened colonies? With respect, Elder Hyun, we don't have enough ships to move millions of people, Admiral Min replied. And where would we send them? No, we must defend our homes. Jun, who had been listening quietly, stepped forward. The Varaxians are adapting their strategy. We need to adapt faster. What do you suggest? President Kang asked. The Varaxians value hierarchy and central control. It's their strength, but also their weakness. Jun looked around the room. We need to learn more about their command structure, specifically about this Overlord Jin discovered in their communications. Jin nodded. From what we've gathered, the Overlord rarely involves itself in conquest directly, but all major decisions require its approval. So if we could somehow reach this Overlord, Jun began. Impossible, Admiral Min interrupted. Their command ship will be at the center of their fleet, heavily guarded. A new voice spoke up. Not impossible, just very, very difficult. All heads turned to the speaker, a woman in a Special Forces uniform. Her face was marked with a scar across one cheek. Commander Woon, Admiral Min greeted her. You have a suggestion. A small stealth team. Commander Woon said simply. My people can infiltrate the Varaxian command ship during battle. We've studied their ship's designs from the data collected at New Sol. There are access points. For what purpose? Elder Hyun asked. Sabotage. Information, Jun answered. If we can access their central database, we might find something to use against them. Maybe even a way to contact this overlord directly. It's a suicide mission, Admiral Min warned. Commander Woon shrugged. Maybe. But if there's a chance it helps save our colonies, my team is ready. President Kang considered this. Very well. Prepare your team, Commander Woon. She turned to Admiral Min. And prepare our fleets for a multi-pronged defense. The Varaxians are coming, and this time they won't underestimate us. The attack began 3 days later. Just as Hana had predicted, the Varaxian fleet split into 3 groups, targeting the colonies of New Sol, New Buzan, and Terra Nova simultaneously. On the bridge of the Defender Asterisk, now positioned near New Buzan, Admiral Min watched the tactical display. They're learning. Their formations are tighter, and they're using their smaller ships to screen their battlecruisers. Our jamming won't be as effective this time, Hana agreed. They've modified their communication systems. Then we adapt, Min said firmly. Signal all ships. Execute Defense Plan Echo. The human fleet broke into smaller groups, each targeting specific Varaxian vessels. The battle was joined with flashes of energy weapons and explosions. Meanwhile, a small, unmarked ship slipped away from the Defender Asterisk. Inside, Commander Woon briefed her team of 6 Special Forces soldiers. Once we're inside, we move fast, she told them. Jin has provided us with a translation device and access codes he extracted from their communications. We find their central database, download everything we can, and get out. And if we're discovered, asked one of her team. Then we make sure the data gets back to our ships, one way or another, Woon replied grimly. Their ship approached the massive Varaxian command vessel from an unconventional angle, using the chaos of battle as cover. As they neared, they could see the enormous ship firing at human vessels, its weapons turning space around it into a deadly light show. Hold on, said their pilot, navigating through the battlefield. Approaching access point in 30 seconds. The small ship positioned itself near a maintenance hatch on the underside of the Varaxian vessel. With precise maneuvering, they docked with a soft clank. We're attached, the pilot confirmed. Cutting tools ready. Commander Woon nodded. Begin breach. On the bridge of his command ship, Supreme Commander Krell watched the battle unfold with growing frustration. The humans were not fighting as expected. Their ships darted in and out of range, striking quickly then retreating before the Varaxians could bring their superior firepower to bear. They're avoiding direct confrontation, Sarth observed, using their speed and maneuverability against us. It doesn't matter, Krell growled. They cannot win. Our numbers are too great. Commander, a Varaxian officer called out. The human diplomat is requesting communication. Krell's 4 eyes blinked in surprise. Put him through. Let's hear what excuses he offers for his species' imminent defeat. Jum's face appeared on the screen. He looked calm, not at all like someone whose worlds were under attack. Supreme Commander, Jum greeted him politely. I thought we should speak one more time. To beg for mercy. Krell asked mockingly. It's too late for that. No, Jun replied. To offer you one last chance to withdraw. This conflict doesn't need to continue. Krell laughed, a harsh sound. Your species is delusional. Look around you. Your ships are outnumbered 3-1. Your colonies will fall. Numbers aren't everything, Jun said. There's something you should know about humans, Supreme Commander. We're at our best when things look worst. We don't give up. We adapt. We work together. And we protect our own. Pretty words, Krell dismissed. But words won't save you. Perhaps not, Jun agreed. But I think there's something you should see. He nodded to someone off-screen, and the image changed. It showed a tactical display of the battles at all 3 colonies. Varaxian ships were indeed numerous, but they were taking losses at an alarming rate. What is this trickery? Krell demanded. No trick, Jun replied as his face reappeared. just reality. Your ships are powerful, but they're designed for enemies who fight conventionally. We don't. Krell was about to respond when a Voraxian officer interrupted. Commander, our systems are being accessed. Someone is downloading from the central database. Impossible, Krell roared. How? Internal breach, the officer reported. Security teams are responding. June smiled slightly. It seems you have some unwelcome guests, Supreme Commander. I'd love to stay and chat, but I have a battle to help win. Oh, and one more thing. You might want to check on your other battle groups. They're not doing so well either. The transmission cut off. Find these intruders, Krell ordered, and prepare our combined beam weapon. I want that human's ship destroyed. Deep inside the Voraxian command ship, Commander Woon and her team worked quickly. 2 of her soldiers guarded the entrance to the computer core room, while the others helped her download data. How much longer? She asked one of her team. 2 minutes, he replied. This is a massive amount of data. Commander, we have company, reported one of the guards. Security teams approaching from 2 directions. Hold them off, Woon ordered. We need that data. Her soldiers took positions, ready to fight. The sounds of Voraxian weapons could be heard in the corridor. Download at 80%, reported the technician. There's something strange here. Records of rebellion in their conquered territories. Multiple species are fighting back. That could be useful, Woon said. Anything about this overlord? Yes, coordinates for a homeworld, far from here. And communication protocols. The doors at both ends of the corridor exploded inward. Voraxian security forces poured through, firing their weapons. Download complete, the technician shouted over the noise. Get that data to the ship, Woon ordered. The rest of us will cover you. The technician ran for the maintenance shaft they had used to enter, clutching the precious data device. The other team members provided covering fire. Woon hit her communication device. Pilot, prepare for immediate departure. Data is on its way to you. Commander, what about you and the team? The pilot asked. Get that data back to the fleet, Woon replied. That's an order. We'll find another way out. On the bridge of the Defender Admiral Min received the transmission from Commander Woon's ship. We have the data, sir. But Commander Woon and most of her team are still inside the Voraxian vessel. Can we extract them? Min asked. Negative. There's too much fire around the command ship. Min closed his eyes briefly. Continue the battle. Their sacrifice won't be in vain. Hana, looking at the tactical display, suddenly pointed. Admiral, look. The Voraxian ships at New Seoul are breaking formation. Similar reports came in from Terra Nova. The Voraxian attack was faltering at all 3 colonies. What's happening? Min wondered. Jin, who had been analyzing the incoming data, looked up from his station. Sir, the data Commander Woon sent. It includes a direct communication from the Voraxian overlord. It's ordering a full retreat. Why? Min asked, surprised. Multiple reasons, Jin explained. Our resistance was stronger than expected. But more importantly, there's rebellion throughout their empire. Other conquered species have been watching this conflict and have chosen this moment to rise up. On the Voraxian command ship, Krell received the transmission from his overlord with disbelief. Retreat, when victory is within our grasp. The overlord's orders are clear, Sarth said. The central territories require our immediate attention. The conquered worlds are in open rebellion. Because of these humans, Krell snarled. They've shown others that we can be defied. All the more reason to deal with them later, Sarth reasoned. When our empire is secure again. Krell wanted to argue, but even he wouldn't defy the overlord. Signal the retreat, he ordered bitterly. But this isn't over. As the Voraxian fleet began to disengage, a small explosion rocked the command ship. What was that? Krell demanded. The intruders, an officer reported. They've stolen a shuttle and are attempting to escape. Destroy them. Krell ordered. But in the confusion of the retreat, the small shuttle slipped away, carrying Commander Woon and her surviving team members. 3 days later, the leaders of humanity gathered once more. This time, the mood was triumphant but somber. Many lives had been lost in the defense of the colonies. Commander Woon, her arm in a sling, reported on her mission. The data we recovered tells us much about the Varaxian Empire. It's not as stable as they wanted us to believe. Many of their conquered peoples have been looking for an opportunity to rebel, and our resistance provided that opportunity, Jun said. Exactly, Woon confirmed. When they saw that we could stand against the Varaxians and survive, it gave them hope. President Kang stood. The Varaxians have retreated, but as Commander Krell said, this isn't over. They'll return one day, perhaps with an even larger force. And we'll be ready, Admiral Min said. We've learned much from this conflict. Our weapons, our tactics, our unity, all are stronger now. Unity, Jun repeated thoughtfully. That's what the Varaxians never understood. They conquer and rule through fear. We stand together by choice. Elder Hyun, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. Perhaps there is another way forward. The data shows that not all Varaxians agree with their empire's expansion. And now, with rebellions throughout their territory, they may be more open to negotiation. June smiled at the word. Yes, I think when they return, we should be ready with both defenses and diplomatic options. After all, that's the human way. Prepare for the worst, but hope for the best. Then let's begin preparing, President Kang said. For defense, for diplomacy, and for a future where perhaps even the Varaxians might learn that true strength comes not from conquest, but from cooperation. As the meeting ended, June looked out a window at the stars. The Varaxians had demanded war from a species that came seeking peace. They had learned what it meant to face humanity at its most determined. Next time, they would negotiate with humanity on equal terms, or face the consequences.